And I'm with the National Association of Women Artists. This is our second year at the Harlem School of the Arts with our exhibition, Shelter. And I'd like to welcome you to the show. We'll be telling you a little bit about the show. Shelter is about yours, mine, all of us, our need, what the world needs from shelter, what we need shelter from. And it's about not only homelessness, although homelessness is a big part of it, substance abuse, domestic abuse, refugees, immigration, drug abuse, and anything that people need shelter from, gay rights, human rights, female rights. So I hope you enjoy the show and come to see it. It's from March 1st to March 31st. Thank you. This is Glisa Puente Mina's painting, I'm Done. Glisa is a Cuban artist living in America now, an American citizen, and this painting is about abuse. And a woman, we see the woman with her back to us, her bags are by her, and she is just done, and she is leaving the situation. Hi, it's me again, Judith Carlin, and this is my painting, Destruction. I've been very upset with what's going on in the world, about all the genocides, the wars, the homeless people, the refugees, and this is my response to it. This is Valley of Tears by Leah Rabb. Leah is an artist who lives in New York and travels back and forth to Israel. She has many family that lives in Israel, much of her family that lives in Israel, and she's very concerned with what's going on with Israel and the Palestinians, and she's very anti-war, and this is her painting.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jill Barata, president of NAWA, and I'm going to explain Marlan Gorski's painting. This is called Survived. It's a beautiful painting of a young woman, and you ask what she has survived. Behind her, there's a fire with a person in flames and somebody calling for help, trying to escape, and this is Marlan's interpretation of a survivor called Survived. This is Diane Salomon's acrylic painting entitled Sanctuary. It's an abstract in red and purple. I think it's a complex web of the kinds of situations that might lead one to need sanctuary, but it's open to interpretation as an abstract. This is Joanne Reski-Kirkman's mixed media piece called Keep Out. It appears to be a hand saying stop, a stopping hand, which I would imagine is the way that someone would feel if they felt closed out from getting what they needed in terms of shelter or anything else.
Okay, so this is Janine Kitzhaber's painting, Shelter One. It's a painting of a child's recreation of a shelter, and it brings back fond memories of play and shows from an early age how important shelter is to all of us. Okay. This next mixed media painting is Seeking Shelter from Kate Masala. And in it you see maybe two immigrants that are leaving horrible situations and trying to find new safe places to live. Nancy Coleman Dan is known for her beautiful paperworks. This evokes the title of the piece, Refuge. In it you see two people huddled together seeking refuge.
This collage is by Carol Richard Kaufman. We know her for her elaborate pencil drawings and collages, which this is, a collage assemblage called Big Whack Attack. And WAC is, comes from WAC, Women's Action Coalition, a feminist open alliance that sought to address issues of women's rights through direct action. It was founded in 1992 in New York City and inspired the formation of subsequent chapters in other U.S. cities as well as Canada and Europe. They conducted protests, sit-ins, and educational campaigns and viewed civil disobedience as a mode of direct action.
This is Evie Cohen's Survivance. Evie is a photographer. She took this series of images titled Survivance in Paris on the abandoned circular belt railway, delimiting Paris's Le Petit Ceinture, which has been in operation between 1854 and 1934. When she started the series, what she didn't realize was that it had basically become a homeless shelter with individuals without anything. They had just laid out spaces of survival in the long tunnels that dot the abandoned line. And she was very shaken by this and continued to photograph this series, this very important series.
Artist Lorraine Klagsbrun has in her paper collage created what appears to be a very comfortable room, but the title helps us see that the subjects in the image are actually waiting for war, which is the title. So they could be waiting to participate or waiting for war to come to them, and you can, on closer examination, feel the tension in that room. This shadow box almost is titled Seeking Shelter by Missy Pierce. It's beautifully ornate framing around the top and a nice set of buildings, but when you look to the backdrop, you see there's actually a family fleeing from something very ominous and disturbing in the background.
This is Lorelei Rose's piece, and it's called Come Home, with no space between the come and the home, just come home. And Lorelei is a known caricaturist in New York City, but she also, in her fine art, is known for these psychological pieces, and they always deal with children in distress that need nurturing. And here you see Mother Nature coming up, grabbing a child, rescuing a child from what looks like indifferent parents or abusive parents. This is a hand-pulled lithograph by Susan Soper called Siblings. And one thinks sometimes all you have is your siblings, and it looks like these are two siblings that are just relying on each other, and they're holding each other, and they don't know what the future will bring. This is Deborah Freakin's piece, and it's called Sanctuary 3. It's mixed media. Deborah's known for her clever collages and small sculptures made of found objects. And it's a very surreal piece with people searching around and animals and futuristic structures in it. It's very dystopian looking in my view.
Okay, this is Julie Castillo's oil painting, sort of typical of her work. Shows a somewhat well-worn greenhouse selling flowers in front of it. It's called bouquet making, and kind of shows the contrast between something beautiful and colorful, part of the landscape, and this sort of dilapidated almost greenhouse behind. Sally Ruddy is giving us a long distance view in her oil painting called Pink House. So we see from a distance this very pretty pink house in a field by itself. And actually, of all the pieces here, this may be the place that you would want to be for your shelter. It's a very comfortable looking place. Diane Rosen, in pencil, ink, and collage, has shown us how she feels. I think it's very clear. It's called juggling, and we can very well imagine how she feels with an elephant and a big ball of something right on her top of her prone body. This is by Laureen Brown. It's called Home Found. It really gives me a feeling of relief and safety. This is a lithograph monoprint with collage elements. She's got these beautiful birds and clouds flying overhead. Another one with a feeling of home sweet home.
This is a wall sculpture by Joyce Ellen Weinstein. It's titled No One Home for the Homeless. And in it you see little houses with windows open and doors open, and it's all dark inside and run down looking and abandoned. This is an oil painting by Catherine Newman titled Ghost. In it you see an empty room. There is nothing in it. The colors are very subdued, and there's a sadness to it, and you wonder whether people there have been evicted, or maybe there's another interpretation. Maybe it's just a room with nobody living there, but there's somebody that could be coming to live there and change the future of that painting. This is Carleen McConnell's Elements of the Land. And you see different little elements in it, and there's a lot of graphite in it that's sort of boldly and freshly drawn through it. And it just looks like all the elements are being tossed around by the wind. And it represents sort of what's happening to our land, our people, our world. This is Harbor by Tina Salveson, and it's acrylic, pencil, charcoal, dyes, and it just makes you want to jump into it. It's a nest that is welcoming everybody to make them feel safe.
This is Sandra Bertrand's oil painting. It's typical of her style. It's called Afternoon of the Tornado. It brings to mind the dangers and heartbreaks of the devastation in a tornado's path. You can almost feel the structures that might have been leveled by that strong twister in the center. This Femage with hand-cut paper, hand-cut found paper, is by Rhonda Thomas Erdang. It's an amazing collage, and very appropriately, since this exhibition is actually in Harlem, the title is Afropolitan in Harlem. This is a room which could be anywhere, but she has located it for us here in Harlem, and it seems to have historical figures. It's a little bit surrealistic, with a woman almost in the fireplace or seeming to come out of it. and sort of an antimacassar on the foreground on the couch. Very ornate and beautiful, and almost like a room you'd like to just walk in and sit on that overstuffed chair. This photograph is done by Natalia Korenkropf. It's a little bit of a departure for her. We know her for her prints and sculptures, but this is a beautiful photograph called Lower East Side, and shows how versatile she is and what a good eye.
This is Susan Hammond's photograph, Making Room for Strip Mall. In it, the photographer shows a home that belonged to someone but is now about to be demolished. The home looks like it was once grand, and it's no longer grand. And it's symbolic of what is happening throughout America, that the distinct charm is just being replaced by strip malls. This is Virginia Aspenite's photograph, My World and I. In it you see a homeless person with all of her possessions, and it's a very sad photograph, and it's something we see way too often.
This is acrylic and oil on canvas by Joanne Handler. It's an abstract, open to interpretation. It's called We Didn't Start the Fire. It's sort of a cubist, almost a cityscape. Actually, I want you to know this was a crowd favorite at the reception. I think there's something wacky and fun about it, while it's also gray and strange. This is mine. I'm Jill Clifford Barata. This is a canvas collage intaglio hand-pulled print. It shows figures in structure, a collage in that I actually attached canvas onto a board and made the print off of that. It suggests the comfort and confines of the home and the boundaries and the feeling of being without.
This acrylic painting, titled Second Shift, is by Christine Whalen Waller. In it you see a young man looking pretty tired, sitting on a stoop outside. There's a graffiti background, and you get the sense that it's somebody working a menial labor job, living week to week. This is Carla Leopold's piece, Shelter Souls. It's mixed media, and if you look closely at it, there's words on it. It says how, no, wonder, why, and you get a sense that it's people wondering how they ended up in this situation. I got all my sisters with me. This is an acrylic painting by Pamela Markman. She's an artist working out of California, and if you look at it, it's very a raw neighborhood. There's graffiti, there's a shopping cart filled with maybe somebody's belongings, the streets are dirty, but I get from what it's saying that this is my neighborhood, this is where my family is, this is where my sisters, my friends, and this is my life.
Here's an acrylic and collage with magazine pieces created by Susan Ashley. It's called Birdwing at Ground Zero. So you can see it's evoking the 9/11 Ground Zero site with the World Trade Center. So it's a cityscape, it's a collage, it's bright blue, and it has this kind of ominous feeling which we all associate with a tragedy, whether it would be that or not without our knowledge, I don't know, but there it is. This is by Carmela Martin. It's an oil painting. It's very poignant in its texture with the dripping oil paint. And, you know, because it's called The Gathering, to me it evokes a huddled mass, perhaps. This is a mixed media piece by Emily Talley. And there you have, in a swirl of blue, the title is My Closet Bed, which sort of rips at my heart, and there actually are hearts floating around. And it really evokes the feeling of the limitations of space. This is by Trish O'Day. Surprisingly, it's a photograph. Seems to be a mural with scaffolding in front of it. So it's a somewhat threatening figure with this bar, these bars in front of it, and actually on the bars you can see a few notes. Two of them say okay, okay, and no cope.
This is Irene Nedolay's oil painting, Light and Darkness. It's a strong and lovely statement of hope. And Irene is from Siberia, now living in New York, and her paintings always have this cold blueness to it. And you see this angel bringing light, a sliver of the moon, and you do get a feeling of hope and something good is going to come from the dark and the cold. This is a batik by Lenore Fiora Mills titled Environmental Calamity. The artist is sensitive to the devastation and destruction of our waters and our environment. You see a fallen tree in it. You see things people throw on the ground and the water, and just how we're ruining our planet.
Lauren Davis's sculpture is painted plaster and wood. It's entitled, His Right Hand is Under My Head, and His Left Hand Doth Embrace Me. This is a variation of a prayer from the Bible, and it's just a beautiful tilted head. This sculpture is by Larissa Waya. It's made out of cotton and wood. The title is Kozma Prutkov, In the Building of Human Happiness. Friendship builds the walls and love forms the dome.